speaking with Wes about, it's the difference between things like THC versus THCa. It's things like CBD versus CBDa. We're talking about ingesting it or in smoking it. We're talking about the different ways the body can absorb these things. We are live on 3 different networks. And Wes, tell us the story that you were just going to tell us right before when we've been chatting for a half hour, folks. We've been chatting for like 23 minutes about these things, about how the body is such a miraculous thing. We just have to give it what it needs. Most of the time, it has what it needs. We just have to sometimes retrain it because of all these toxins. For lack of a better term, they're toxins. It's environmental. It's habitual. They put it in our water. They put it in our food. We've talked about how much plastic is probably residing in my body as we speak right now. But these are some of the things that we're talking about. So, Wes, go ahead. I'm sorry. Continue the conversation.
Health issues are very broad. First off, my name is Wes, and we're going to talk about some things here about general information that should be just out there and be touted. Hydration is the number one thing that a human can do for their body. And I'm not saying all of a sudden drink 5 gallons of water. What I'm saying is increase your water intake by 8 ounces a day. Just something very simple. Drink an extra glass or 2 of water. If you don't see any benefits from it, I'd be surprised. Most people are running in a dehydrated state no matter what, because the body is so good at allocating resources that it will protect the brain. It will start moving that moisture where it needs to be. So the problem is then the system's not running at optimal conditions because it doesn't have enough moisture in it to make everything work. The interesting part about the system is that it is capable of running at a deficit, and whether or not that's good or bad, it'll just keep doing it. So that is the front part of it, is hydration. The second part of it is nutrition. And one of the statements that I'm going to make is most people will eat something that they are allergic or having some sort of a reaction to. And as humans with habits, what we tend to do is continue on with that habitual relationship with whatever it happens to be. For some people, it might be alcohol. For some people, it might be a dietary thing that they just can't get away from. Most people have no idea. So those 2 parts. The third part of this equation is restorative rest. And as Paul mentions, one thing that we have in our society is we have more stress in so many different ways. We have environmental, physical, mental. If you want to look 100 years back and you say how much stress did the people have to deal with? They had to eat, they had to survive, they had to do a number of different things. But we're in a different world today. These stresses.
Their stressors were like real things, like having
survival.
to survive the winter, having
Survival.
to have enough food, having wild animals go at them. It wasn't. Our stressors are different. You were talking about the blue screen effect.
Well, people
the
that
glow that comes off people, even when they don't have a device 3 inches from their face. We already know that's not good, right? We already know.
And they talk about
RF waves and all this crap that's floating around. We're just trying to. Why don't you just go stick your head into a microwave oven at this point?
So yesterday, I'm driving down the highway in LA, and I wish I had taken a picture. There was a cell tower that was even with the highway. It was less than 10 feet from my head. It had 25 different panels on it. It's popping 10G, folks. What I can tell you, and I'll get off on different tangents, but I'm going to tell you, one thing about cell phone activity and 1G, when they did the studies on 1G, if you look into it, it was dangerous. When they went to 3G, they started burying the dangers. When you're that close to a cell tower that is pushing 10G, I don't even think they know all the things
They
that
can't.
will
Okay, so
affect.
hold on. There's no way anybody can know the long-term effects. You know how we're going to find out what those cell towers, those 10G towers are going to do? It's not us.
Yeah.
It's our kids.
Amen. We're the
It's
guinea
not
pig of
us, it's our
society.
kids or it's our grandchildren, if they make it that far. Because if my
Well,
kids have kids at this point, they're probably going to have two heads or something. Or,
we'll see. There was some big issues. You bring up another point,
by the
and this
way,
is a
thank you
really
for listening to us. We're on Twitch, YouTube, and Africa TV. We do have live viewers on Twitch, YouTube, and Africa, so I want to thank you for joining us. I'm with Wes here. What would you consider yourself? What is your title, Wes?
we're going to have to figure that out
For
because
this
if people
conversation,
ask,
what hat are you wearing today? Chemist?
today is more
Activist?
of a general education. I do have a background in genetics.
Okay.
I have a background in growing. I have a background in manufacture, extraction, uh, and I won't go any further. I've been in
That's good
this.
enough for this conversation. But you guys can join in on the conversation. If you have
Yeah,
questions
please.
for Wes, or I, please go below and make a comment. We will see it live here on screen. I'll post it, and we'll address it. We're talking about the difference of all these different compounds, and I use the word compounds, but that sounds so chemically. If that's a word.
And
It's
and
so
this is what it
organic.
looks like.
There it
You
is.
know, it's
That's
funny when it switches
THCa.
from the yeah, it's funny when it switches from the plant to this substance that looks like more like a medicine. It's an isolated compound.
Right.
And again, the health benefits of this plant, it's really interesting that it's now being studied all over the world. We spend a lot of time in Israel, and in Israel, they are very, very advanced at cancer treating and a number of other things. Um, what I find is distressing is we were just at the Champs show in Las Vegas, and the synthesized amount of cannabinoids that are being made and being pushed into products with no regulation whatsoever, no real refined testing, that's distressing to me. Um, uh, I just feel that people have a right to know what's going into their body, what
Right.
they are using, that there is proper, we call it a COA, a certificate of authenticity, that shows you what is in what you have. And to me, with all the charlatans and all the things that are out there, it's really difficult for the consumer to know what a good product is.
It is, and it's because for one thing, even when we're talking about things that are regulated, you go into a dispensary, for lack of a better term, or you coining one term. If you go into a
Well, let's talk
dispensary
about
and
organic food for 30.
you look at the back of a product, at the ingredients, what they're using. I mean, okay, so even with the FDA, they say things like things that really mess me up. Artificial or natural flavorings. What is a natural flavoring? I want to know where
Yeah.
that's coming from. I want to know, are you getting an orange or a lemon or a citrus thing from like the rind of the fruit or the oil from the fruit? What is natural and artificial flavor? I want to know what you're putting in my body. So when you go to
So
a dispensary,
here's what'll happen in the
when you go to a
future, Paul.
dispensary, it's even worse, right? Isn't it?
Well, here's what's going to happen in the future. And one of the things that I worked on in my life has also been blockchain technology. One thing I'm going to tell you is eventually everything will be in a format that you can follow where it came from, how it was produced, all the COAs, everything associated with a specific compound. Now, this should be done in our food industry. I want to know where the fish came from that I eat on my dinner table. I really would like to know. I want to know, did it come from the South China Sea or did it come from, wherever it came from?
Well,
The problem
it
is,
used to be good that you could eat fish anywhere, well, anywhere, and now it's like you said. I want to know what water, but isn't it all polluted at this point?
Well, you know what we can say is gloom and doom, and we can talk about that. But I come
Yeah.
from an
No,
era
I don't want
where
to do that. Okay, this conversation's
yeah,
supposed to be more
because
uplifting.
because because let me tell you about the Potomac River. When I was a child, you couldn't swim in the Potomac River. This is the river that runs between Virginia and Maryland, next to Washington D.C. You'd think it'd be a pretty good place to keep clean water.
It's the one that
Uh,
George Washington threw the silver dollar across.
Amen. George Washington's home. But I did watch them clean up the Potomac River to where I swim in that river on a regular basis and have no issues. And so, again, what we always want to do is we want to move towards better. We want to move towards enlightenment. We want to move towards awareness. We want to move towards self-advocacy. The problem is with all the different things, the way things are spun and twisted and turned, you can be very easily manipulated today. And, whether you know it or not, we probably are all being manipulated to some degree. But again, being aware, studying, understanding what these compounds can possibly do. I get the same pushback every time, Paul. It says, well, how can something be so good and do this and do that and do the other thing? And most of my friends say it's more like a multivitamin. It's more like just a supportive nature all the way around. And most of the time you can't say that. You know what I mean? Oh, what does it specifically do? Does it help me with my gout? Does it help me with this? And one of the things that the FDA will not really allow us to do is make claims. So what I'll tell everybody is, you kind of got to work through a lot of this yourself. I'm not saying go out there and buy everybody's everything and try it all out, but keep an open mind. Do some research, try to get a good understanding of what it is that you're trying to do, and keep an open mind. One thing that I have learned is the absolutes in this industry are you get 9 out of 10, but you won't get 10 out of 10. And everybody in science always wants perfect science. And as we work through these things, the other thing is I know that these compounds are adaptive. Now, that term is unusual because most medications are specific.
Right.
They use it at such a high rate because they need a result. So whether you're an 80-pounder or a 280-pounder, they'll give you the same pill. So the conversation that I was leading to is overtoxification of medications. And Paul and I were having a conversation earlier about you have to be an advocate. You should ask your healthcare provider to do a audit of your medication on a regular basis. Make sure that
every single time you go in, every single time, because every one of your healthcare providers doesn't have your back. Let me tell you.
And they make a mistake. Things happen
all the time. Every time they ask you something, you go from the phone where they have to verify something. Then you go to the counter, they're verifying the same thing. You get into the office, they're telling you something contrary. You're your own advocate, and if you're doing it for someone else, you better have their back. You better be watching really closely. I'm an advocate for not only my family members, and my parents. My parents are probably the one you got to watch the most, even though they've navigated this healthcare system, this obstacle course of a healthcare system that we have in this country. Even though they've done this, they still need help because people will walk over you. I mean, I've done everything from the normal healthcare to VA healthcare to you name it. And again, we love our vets, yet we treat them the way we do. I can't believe
Yeah, we'll get into special information on vets and a lot of that because I'm a real advocate. Anybody who has fought for my freedom in this country and served this country well has all of my respect. I understand. I come from a military family. I come from I also have a 501(c) for veterans. Veterans are a major focus in my world. Anybody, but again, that's like a protected class. I want everybody to be supportive.
Oh, right.
You know, the mental anguish that one goes through, uh, depending, like I said, not everybody goes through it. Some people don't. Um, you know, the supportive nature of these compounds, both physical and mental. But I'll get back to this one young lady. This one young lady called me, and I'll put pictures up, but you cannot imagine the nerves were coming out of the ends of her fingertips.
Wow.
So she was on 27 medications. She was the worst example of uh, I'd ever seen.
Right.
So she calls me, and obviously she's having lots of issues. She's contemplating suicide at this point when she
Mm.
calls me. And I'm not a suicide prevention hotline person or any of that, even though I would love to always be able to help people. But she was at the end of her rope every
Probably
way.
not the
And
term you want to use, but I get it. I'm a comedian.
yeah,
By the way, I want to
but
thank people joining us on Twitch, YouTube, and Africa TV. Looks like we have one comment. I'm not sure what they were pertaining to, but it's Jabin93i says, "Wow." Let's put that up on the screen. I think you're joining us on Twitch. So thanks for joining us. I'm not sure. Tell us what we wowed you on. Hopefully it's on everything, right? We want to hear that. So I'm sorry, Wes. I just had to acknowledge these people.
no,
So
do it
nice.
by all means, sir.
There we go.
You you know we'll get jazzy. You know,
We
I've
will.
been in this work for a long time, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if Jazzy wasn't one of my people.
Right.
Uh, you know, I'm going to tell a lot of stories, but Jasmine is one of my. I can't even explain how strong this young woman is. I would put pictures up of her breast to show you what this young lady's breast cancer looks like, but because I haven't talked to Jazzy about it, we won't do that.
And since I
But she
haven't put
has
a little disclaimer down below, but yeah, but so
she,
she went from something. I mean, you can give us a couple adjectives. What do you? She went from something very.
well, no, here Jazzy decided that she went to the American Cancer Society and they said, you've got cancer, you have breast cancer, and your chances of living after 10 years are none,
Wow.
the type of cancer you have. Jasmine didn't accept that. Jasmine has been doing alternative work with a number of our friends and people that we know. Um, Her breast cancer is very, very unusual. The breast actually has open wounds from the nipple to the bottom side, so you can actually see this. And with Jasmine, we use something alternative called RSO, Rick Simpson oil,
Right.
for a better word, is a extracted compound of cannabinoids that are treated on people. But Jasmine decided that she wanted to go more with the alternative methods, and she's been doing a number of alternative things. Um, she's one of the strongest young women I know. To be in your early 20s and have somebody tell you that you're not going to be alive at 32 years old, and then she changed her diet, she changed her almost everything. And, you know, we did video work on Jasmine over 2 years ago. It was funny, this month, 2 years ago, we had Jasmine up on stage at a Lost Coast Wellness video presentation that we did. And, most of these things are still going on. With cancer, it's a tough one. Uh, and I don't want to bring this into cancer because it's a really specific, narrow area. But I want to talk about that toxification of that poor
Right.
lady. What happened was you could see the black nerves actually coming out of the tips of the fingers. So the nerves were actually exposed. Now, I have never seen anything like this. I could tell how distraught she was in all ways because she was just telling me she didn't know whether she could live through the day. Now, when I hear that, let me tell you what kind of responsibility that puts on a human being, because I'm an empath and I care about everybody. But that poor girl, I can tell you, I spent a lot of time with her. Um, she, through nudging and work, I recommended, which is really not the thing to do, because I would recommend somebody would really need to look at 27 different medications. And so she kind of started going through, and she found the same thing Paul and I did with his parents, that there was duplications in her medications and the doctors weren't checking. So right off the bat, we went from 27 down to 18. Well, I can tell you that's not enough to move the mark. And I'm sorry, I'm running out of juice here, so I'm re-plugging in my phone.
Okay, and I'm trying to let people know that we're running live on all these platforms so they can join us and see if they have any
questions. If anybody has any questions, but that poor, I will tell you this. I've got pictures of those fingers, and within 4 months, there was no black ends coming out of her fingers. She was off of every single medication. She didn't take a one. Now, I've not followed up with this young lady because, I would love to see where she's at today, because the poor person that I spent those hours with the phone, giving her some recommendations, and my recommendations wouldn't be to stop taking medication. Let's not ever go there. I'm not going to tell anybody to stop taking medication. That is not what I'm telling somebody to do, is be a healthcare advocate for themselves and make sure what they are putting into their body is something, just because somebody tells you you need it. The second thing is, not all doctors are created equal. And I'm not going to bash doctors either, but in my lifetime, we've had disastrous mistakes from peritonitis to removing wrong limbs to doing things that you could never, ever expect at a professional level. So you just have to be your own advocate. Has anybody else asked any other questions, Paul? Do we have anybody?
Not yet. I'm looking, and I just sent feelers out to a couple more people. But we're here,
great,
and I keep doing it. So it's Wes Ady. Right.
Yep.
I keep wanting to call you Wes Ady.
That's okay. My mother always said, knock the L out of lady, was her way of saying it. But again,
so we're sitting here with Wes Ady, and he's wearing many hats. But right now, he's a geneticist, I guess is the proper term, right?
That's a good one.
Okay. I don't even know if that's a proper term, but you work with genetics. You work with different things that we're talking about. Maybe the difference between all these different compounds, and when you isolate something.
Yeah, I work in compounds that are not really controversial. They've been around a long time. I'm going to throw out some terms like THC, THCa. When I say something like CBG, that would be cannabigerol. It would be CBGa, cannabigerolic acid. All these forms have real technical names, and what they are is they're molecule groups that look very much the same. So if I was to present to you these 5 molecules that I just mentioned, you would see that they are 90% the same. They have a tail on them, they have a little this or that. What's so bizarre is they have a lot of commonalities, and then they have a lot of differences. So the acid groups might affect the body in a specific way, where the non-acid groups, and we'd be talking there about CBG or CBGa or CBD or CBDa or THC and THCa. All of these are very, very similar in their structure, but the uses and what they figured that they can do is still being studied. And that now we're just talking specifically about cannabinoids. We also have terpenes, canaflavins. There's lots of other parts to this plant. But as Paul says, once you isolate something, you are taking it to its purer form and trying to make a specific compound out of it through the process of isolation.
So when you isolate a terp or a terpene, where's the use in that? Oh, you're smiling and laughing. Did I ask the right question?
Okay, so terpenes run in a very, very broad range, and they're still figuring out all the different terpenes.
So you can't isolate it, can you?
No, they're very, very difficult. They come isolated as synthetics. They come isolated out of some plants. But again, you have to realize, like alpha pinene.
If we can't isolate it in nature, how can we isolate it in a lab? I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry. If you're watching, I call bullshit. How can you,
well, they synthesize
it. Possibly tell me that we've done it synthetically when we haven't even done it naturally? Means we haven't found out what it is. Again, it goes back to that conversation. Hey, all natural ingredients. Cool. Tell me what those are. I want to know what I'm putting in my body. That's
when you speak about that, we could talk about organic food. And we can talk about just the way that the ratings and what you can qualify.
You know, being grown in a lab. It's organic. If it's in the dirt, folks, it's organic. I mean, I guess if we're throwing pesticides and crap in it, you're screwing up something organically, but it's still organic. They just want to charge you more.
Well, realize this, everybody, that you got to be your own advocate. You be your own person to do your own due diligence on just about everything. And like I said, we could bash a lot of different industries for being a little underhanded, to say the least. But again, it's usually made for profit. There's a monetary gain usually for manipulation of most things. But you mentioned something in terpenes. Terpenes are probably one of the most powerful substances on planet Earth. When I started learning about terps, what I can say is essential oils are the front line of, let's say, terpenes. So a specific essential oil. What comes out of this plant is combinations of essentials and these terpenes that have never really been grouped together the way that they are in the different plants. And that's what makes people want to partake in one plant over another. It's usually the profile. Terpenes are responsible for the smell, and the smell is a very, very powerful director in therapies. So, but again, these are very powerful substances. We use them in a lot of the products that we develop because we saw that they, let's say they can be aggressive, they can be calming, they can be soothing, and it is something. It's almost like manipulating people through smell, and you wouldn't think that would be the case, but again, in science, they do a lot to manipulate people. This plant has the capabilities of making some amazing combinations of terps. Right. And that's really where the attraction comes from for individual likes of specific strains. Because I wouldn't just say that it's cannabinoid based, because most of them have been bred for high THC today. Right. There's another category for CBD or CBG. We've now been able to grow plants that will grow CBL, CBC, and a number THCV.
I want to mess with you and say, what about CBDX?
Okay, now here's the problem. The other day, I was newly enlightened to a term called THCX.
Oh, THCX.
And then
I'm sorry.
I started doing a little research, and the problem is somebody decided they would make that term up. But if you go in deep and you look, it's an isomer or a offshoot of delta 8. So it's a THC delta 8 isomer,
Right.
and yet they're going to call it a new thing, THCX, and it might have THCP, LZ. It could have anything in it.
So
So
they must have
again,
altered the formula just enough to be able to I'm sorry, to be able to proprietary make it proprietary
yeah,
to them, right? Didn't they have to change something? I mean, if
a lot
you
of people
can't
do
name a
that.
star until you discover it, right?
Well, we find that out with attorneys. They always got to put a little mark on something. You know what I mean? That's what they get
Well,
paid
even
for.
DJs. So, I'm in the world, I'm a stand-up comedian, I'm on stage all the time, and I'm with DJs, and DJs, all they have to do is take someone else's lick and add a whoop, whoop, whoop to it, and it's theirs. Right? So isn't that what they've done by doing THCX? I mean, it's kind of like
Exactly.
we've thrown a little
This is
dash
about
of something in there
branding.
that we're not going to tell you because it's one of the Colonel's 32 secret ingredients. Right?
Yeah, you find this out in patenting and in a lot of things. This proprietary blending and making, somebody asked me the other day in some of our products, uh, do we make the molecules smaller? Do we use different techniques to do these things? And, somebody will say, oh, well, when we miniaturize the molecule, it's 1,000 times more effective. Um, it's funny what people say and then what happens to be true. But again, isn't advertising always been that way, Paul?
Yeah, George Carlin has a bit about truth in advertising. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's always been that way, right? We've always pulled the wool over everybody's eyes. It's a shell game. There's so many smoke and mirrors when it comes to marketing and getting products into your hand. We were talking about, where are we talking about? Impulse items right next to the shop. When you go shopping, it's like, oh, of course you put the candy bar there, right? I almost made it through the store until I saw my Reese's peanut butter cup sitting right there while I'm waiting in line staring at it. I didn't even know.
Well, that's why they put it next to the counter.
I didn't even know it was there until it went, psst, hey, Paul, come on over.
Yeah. That's one thing about our world is we're really heavy on advertising, and advertising does a lot. And, we used to have those truth in advertising, and we used to have all these different advocacy groups out there, Again, I love the commercial where the guy's walking down the street and talking about the internet. Well, it just has to be true because it's on the internet.
Yeah, of course.
Again, I would always caution everybody to be their own advocate. I think there's enough information out there that somebody can look for proper sources, have a better understanding, and the part what I read the other day.
Folks, get educated, folks, because we were told when we were kids, right, Wes? We were told only believe half of what you read. Okay, my kids come to me in my 20s, in their 20s. I got them from 20 to 32. My kids come to me and go, "It must be true. I read it on Google." No. Or
and that's a big problem today.
Wikipedia is like a dictionary, Dad. No. Wikipedia is something. Every entry is made up by someone, and anybody can go in and change an entry. And from moment to moment, your Wikipedia page is going to change. And
so
bizarre. Now you should only believe about 2% of what you read on the internet, folks. And you better fact check what you're doing. I used to go to, Snopes or Snoops or whatever, and go see, is that shit real? Like I just read about the THCa when you ingest it, it's not psychoactive. I didn't realize that. I've been doing this for a while. I've been doing this for well over a decade. We're talking, 2 decades now. And I didn't realize that because I've never really been that educated when it came to THCa. I just knew it worked for me.
Yeah. And the science, what's really great is the science is being studied. It's become open in college campuses to be able to study. So it's really difficult. Even somebody with a lot of capacity like myself, there's so much new information coming off every day. It's hard to keep up with. But again, I think they're learning a lot. One thing about this is, since it is not a new science, but you got to realize we have states every day coming online with new products. And we were reading today about products in, low dosage THC products in Minnesota. And I would have never thought that Minnesota would be a very big, uh, uh, user of
Proponent
cannabinoids.
of doing this properly, right?
But again, what I find is, I went to many states. I was really blessed to work for the Professional Pickleball Association, and I got to put my hands on a lot of people in a lot of different states.
In a good way, folks.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
all
My name,
consenting adults. We're in I'm in San Francisco.
my name's not Joe, but my name is Joe.
Right.
But I only do it with proper intent. Now, one of the things is the topical application seemed to be accepted very well because there's no psychoactivity in transdermal cannabinoids that we're talking about here. They don't usually transfer to any kind of psychoactive high when cannabinoids that are non-psychoactive are applied to the skin topically.
Right.
One of the things that we're finding out is all the different ways that these compounds can be entered into the system, and all the different possibilities for help.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's I always try to liken it with something that people can understand. And if you were to take this as a multivitamin or a product like this and give it 30 days and actually analyze, I love the person when I ask them, in whatever age they are, do they have any issues? And they look me right in the face and say none.
Right.
I'm just so amazed that at 60 years old, they don't have any pain. Again, I think aches and pains are stresses of life, and everybody's going to go through them.
Right.
So one thing about these products is it might not change the way the pain is created, but it changes the way the pain is perceived. And the one thing about cannabinoids that I've noticed is, if, let's say, somebody is struggling at the end of their life and they're taking a lot of opiates because the pain is so intense, they're pretty much out of it because they have to take so much of that opiate medication to work that pain that they have a very low quality of life. So what we've seen is they've used some of the different cannabinoids and been able to reduce the amount of the opiates that they've taken, and then they're less, they're not sleeping as much, they're able to eat more, they're able to function more, because a lot of times these people can't even get out of bed. And one of the things about healing is, if you can keep all those other things that we spoke about, the hydration, the nutrition, and the rest, maybe you add some cannabinoid therapy, but you cannot just lay in bed.
Right.
The body deteriorates at such a fast rate with atrophy. And then, first off, you got to realize their system's compromised because they're usually sick. And then you set them in bed, and then you add narcotics to their system.
Right.
It's almost like it's very difficult for that body to even heal when it's in a heavy sedation mode. But again, I don't want people to be in pain, so I'm not saying people stop taking, pain medications. But I would look at some of the alternatives to manage that, because just because somebody gives you a 500 milligram and you find you take that and you're all the way out of it, that doctor is doing what they've been told to do. And, you've kind of got to be your own advocate at that. Are you functioning? Are you able to function? The thing that I read, which was distressing, which I'll make a copy of and we'll mention it on the next time, is a doctor is supposed to review the negative aspects of what they are prescribing to you versus the advantages of what you came in for.
Right.
And the problem with that statement is if you're on 6 medications from 4 or 5 different doctors, man, you are in a real precarious position there, because the new doctor is going to look at your initial problem. And I'm sorry, I read this the other day, but when I ask a doctor what the side effects are of a medication, you know what they do? They tell me to go to the script and read them off of that. So
Right.
in other words, the doctor can't even tell me a couple of those major things that would seem to me to be very important if I'm following the direction of them to take a medication for something.
Right.
So I was a little I just wish that was true. If all of them had to
Right.
suffer with all the side effects
Right.
of all the medication that they gave out. And then again, there's this push towards doctors to prescribe different medications.
Right.
And, I only know this as I'm not an expert on this, but I do know that the drug companies put out medications. They give incentives to doctors to put medications out, to try medications, and prescribe medications. And for me, that just seems like I don't want to be the guinea pig of a doctor
Right.
testing something on me. I'd much prefer to have some solid background on it. And these things that
Absolutely.
we talk about are very controversial. So just make sure that you do your research. As Paul says, the internet is a great place for data, but it does also have to be backed up. So try to
You
fact
have to
check.
do your due diligence, folks. By the way, we have people joining us on all 3 platforms right now, and people on Facebook. I'm using my phone. There's a reason for it. Don't worry. We'll have the full interview up on our pages all the way across all platforms. But right now, we're live streaming on Twitch, YouTube, and Africa TV, as well as Facebook. And if you're on Facebook, throw us those stars. We can use your support. Go like us at Edge Studios Online on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. And if you're one of our other viewers, thank you for joining us. But Wes, and I'm with Wes Ady, by the way. So, yeah, you have to do that due diligence, right, Wes? Because like anything else in this world, you're getting so much advice. How much of it is real true? And how much of it is true to you? Because everybody is different. Everybody's body chemistry is different. What may be your truth may not be someone else's truth. We're not telling you to get off, cut cold turkey, get rid of all these toxins and all these pill bottles next to your side of your bed. I actually went through that. You were talking about when you have 6 medicines and you narrow it down. I think at one time I was taking 9 different medications in a day. And now I've got it down to 2 that I take daily. But it's the essentials. It's the blood pressure and it's nerve damage. But I'm also taking 1/8 of the nerve damage stuff I was taking before, because I'd rather feel a little bit of pain than just constantly popping those nerve damage pills, which is gabapentin. They tell me it's benign. But is anything we're really sticking into our body that gets processed by either our liver or our kidneys really benign? You're
You
putting your
mentioned a
body
tough
through
one there,
stress it
Paul.
doesn't need to go through. You're getting it accustomed to things that are not natural, that are synthetic, that are in a lab. I mean, there's certain things that we are doing.
The one that you mentioned, Paul, the one that you're on, gabapentin, wow.
Yeah.
That's about all I can say about that one. When you read all the different things that that affects, so I applaud the fact that you've done a little work, that you've kind of pulled back on that. I've got to be very careful, because I know that one, I've had a lot of people have problems with that one. Now, again, they prescribe these things for a number of different reasons. And remember what I said in the beginning. They say that the side effects are not worse than the reason why you come. So you do have to understand there are a lot of side effects with medications.
Right.
There's a lot of negatives to it. Some of these things, when you read them, it looks like the negative effects far outweigh the benefits of taking something. But again, our society is looking for always quick fixes. They always want to fix a problem from the backside, not necessarily from the front side.
Right.
There's a lot to it when somebody's having issues, and again, Paul, that's a personal decision that you've made. And so, do you notice a difference after coming off of those 6 different meds and being where you're at now?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well,
one of
again,
them. Okay, so I've gone through. I have mental health issues. If you follow me at all, if you've watched me on stage, if you've seen me on a microphone, even with these interviews, you know that I deal with depression, anxiety, and a lot of different things. OCD. I got so many little. You said you're afflicted. If you look under affliction in the dictionary, there I am with my little orange goatee.
Hey, you're right next to me, Paul. You're right. I'm right there. I'm the poster child.
You're the poster child. Okay, cool. So, I have so many things going on that one of them was because I've been on like 5 or 6 different mental health drug trials, for lack of a better term. And when they put you on a mental health drug, they usually want you to stay on for about a year. Even though they're kind of want you to get a couple months of a break, now you're going sideways on me.
I'm sorry, there was 3 calls that came in there, folks. One of these days, I'm going to get everything set up so that
we're getting you a computer so you can do it this way.
Well, one of the things that we're interested in is feedback from the listening audience. Right. We'd really like to service a question or something that would keep us on track here. Is there anybody out there that would like to ask a question?
Actually, we have Pancake, which is Patrick Daniel Bickham. He says this podcast is being brought to you by Pfizer. No. Big Pharma's not in the house. Unless that's your new stage name, Pancake, Big Pharma is not in the house.
No.
So thank you for watching and keep tuning in, guys. We want your feedback. So that's what.
Hey, I like that comment.
And
anyway.
I believe he's calling us all the way from Texas. He's commenting all the way from Texas, folks. So
nice.
Anyway, so.
Well, it takes all kinds. This country's very diverse. I love this country. I get to travel a lot, so I get to see every state.
Right.
And nothing like all the different people that make up this wonderful country. I'm telling you. And I guess I'm a little bit freer advocate. This country was made by people coming from other places. So.
Right. By the way, we're all immigrants unless you're Native American or indigenous folks. We are all
and
from
we
somewhere
killed all
else.
of them, so we were really good at that.
Yeah, no, we invaded from every shore, and we're usually the rejects. So if we came from England and stuff and Europe, we're rejects. We're mutts.
Amen. We got anybody else asking any questions? Because that was a bizarre one, thinking that we act like we're Pfizer.
Yeah, I think he's giving us a hard time because we're sitting here, or we're actually bashing Big Pharma because of all this toxicity in this world. We're getting it from all ends.
And to tell you the truth,
getting it from all ends, right?
And I'm not going to bash them because, look, when somebody gets sick and needs an antibiotic or somebody needs all these great medications that they make.
Science is great. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great things that comes out of science. But there's also some really fucked up stuff. Like even like we were just talking, how are we going to know what was the last thing that you were talking about that they're subjecting us to? What was it?
We haven't talked about.
We said about it earlier.
Stuff.
We said something earlier, and I said something about we're not going to know the effects of that for at least 20 years, and we'll know it when we get cancer. When we start getting cancer, we'll go.
People
you know what? That was a bad
that.
drug to put into us. It's like the Monsanto thing with Weed Eater or whatever.
Well, the thing is what they do is they do accelerated test studies. I have a background in a number of different things, but when you look to see how they go about doing this process, it's almost like when they come out with a new drug that's only been out for 4 years and they give you 100 years worth of research data on it.
Right.
The accelerated pass, the things that they do, we've already suffered from a number of different situations here in this country.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I'm not going to bash them. They're very, very powerful. I'm assuming
live in a
that
great country. There's a lot of things that we do right, folks. Believe me, I guess I know that I'd rather be here than anywhere, but we are a work in progress. Like my shirt says, "Great America." We are a work in progress right now. Boy, there's so many things in our society we need to correct, and it's not going to happen
Well, you know,
before I pass. That's for
proper.
sure.
I'd like to see proper leadership. You know, when I was a
Oh my
kid,
God.
we used to
You mean
see.
in the form of politicians?
Yeah, I'm
Oh
really
my
not
God!
gonna,
Please
I'm
tell.
not going to go
If you're
all
going
the
to
way
start
there.
that story, start off with "Once Upon a Time," Wes.
Yeah,
What the
back
hell?
in the day.
Yeah.
So again, I think this country is great. I love this country.
I do too.
I wish that the politics were more bipartisan and a little bit less party based, but I was never into politics at all till I got older.
Right.
And I guess I just would prefer to see something that's good for everybody instead of on party lines or special interest. And I'm not sure always that Americans are properly represented by the system
represented.
that we have
Oh
today.
yeah, these are supposed to be our elected officials, but yet
Yeah.
they're not doing what they promised. They're not doing. If they do anything to get their foot in the door, and then it's all about lobbyists and who's got the money. Show me the money. It's all about you grease me, I'll grease you. Yeah, that's what I meant, folks. And so,
Right.
I mean, that's what we're looking at. Don't worry. I think Wes is experiencing earthquake in LA. That's why his screen is going like this. No.
It
By
goes
the way,
like that
we're
every
just doing
time.
this for fun. We're doing this for fun. We'll
Yeah.
have the full interview up in the next day or so. I'll post it up on all of our socials. But you can see the real thing right now. If you go to YouTube, Twitch, or Africa TV right now, I'm hacking my Facebook. I'm literally using my iPhone and propping it up. But we do have a viewer there. I do want to thank you, Patrick, for joining us from Texas. Do you have any questions for us here? I know this is a subject that's near and dear to your heart. I know you have something to say, so feel free to chime in and we'll jam in on it because Wes is the one. He's the authority here. I'm just along for the ride, but that's what we're doing. We're sitting here. I'm in San Francisco. Wes is in L.A. What's the weather like? Overcast, foggy?
You know, it's cooled off just a little bit.
Right.
It's cooling off at night because we had some very record highs.
Right. For the last couple of weeks,
speaking of
California's just been
highs,
sweltering.
I was in Las Vegas the other day. It was 118 degrees.
In the shade. In the shade.
In the shade. When I got out of the shade, it went to 119 and 120.
Wow.
And honestly, when we went to look at the weather watch, it said it was 117 by the weather people. But I'll just tell you, that was too hot for me. I am not supposed to be at 118
I'm
degrees.
too old for this shit, Wes. I am too old for this shit. I melt
And you
like an
couldn't
ice cream
hydrate
cone.
on a bet.
Oh my gosh.
The other side of this is, we spoke about hydration, but if you live in areas where you're above those kind of temperatures, you have to just understand that being outside draws the moisture out of your body.
Oh, yeah.
And so please, if anybody can do anything, it'd be a blessing to me. Drink 8 ounces more of water today, just cause. And for you males, I can just tell you, kidney stones, prostate issues, you're going to have more issues as you get older if you're not in the habit of hydration.
Right.
And I can just tell you, there's nothing like pushing out a kidney stone, guys. You will not be happy about that.
Oh, no, that's what you need to have all that water in your system. And the funny thing is, even on these hot days that we've experienced over the last couple of weeks here, even across the country, it's not just California, the Central Valley, or any of it. It's actually across the country and around the world. We're experiencing these highs. And, I don't care if you accept climate or you're a climate denier, but something's happening. Things are getting worse.
Well, regardless of what's happening,
I can drink water and it will come out my pores. I can literally drink and it will come out my pores instantly.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I keep cutting you off because I'm so excited. I'm sorry.
Clean water is the basics of all health. It really is. If I could just teach people that. And then on the other side, when the system is compromised, when somebody is sick, the system needs even more support to fix itself and then clean itself of the toxins. So
Right.
again, the only time they ever told me to do anything with hydration was force a cold, drink water if you got a cold. But otherwise, I was never ever told to drink anything. The other
what's
thing
what's the old adage? Starve a cold, feed a fever.
Yeah.
Is that it?
The Pedialytes, and I'm not a. They have a
all
lot
the
of sugars in
electrolytes
them.
are great if you don't have something like, what is it, like certain electrolytes, like the stuff you buy over the counter. You have to really
Yep.
watch your sodium intake. They do put a
Yep.
lot of extra stuff that you don't need.
Yeah, watch out for sodium, sugar.
Yeah.
Magnesium is one for the athletes that we've noticed really helps if people are really pushing. But I'm talking about your average person who's not used to exerting too much,
Right.
who goes from the car air conditioning to the house air conditioning. They just have to be careful that, these extreme heats, if somebody hasn't been out in those, they just have to be careful. That's all.
Right. So again,
That's
if you're
hot.
just joining us, I'm talking with Wes Ady, and we're talking about all these chemical or compounds. I don't want to say chemicals because that sounds so harsh. These compounds that we're putting in our body with THC, CBN, or CBD and stuff like that, and how we're dealing with isolates and isolating these different compounds and what their medical and or mental health benefits are. There's that stuff. So that's the THCa. That's in a powder form. If you ingest that orally, it will not be psychoactive. It will just help you with all the stuff that, like let's say cancer patients are dealing with. We were just talking about an over-the-pill or over-the-counter or a pharmaceutical pill. We were talking about gabapentin. I take gabapentin for nerve damage. I have nerve damage in multiple parts of my body that are really bad. Have nerve damage plus have anxiety. So I'm using it twofold. I'm using it for that, and I'm using it for the nerve damage as well as anxiety. But when you look at the medical benefits when it comes to THCA and ingesting it, it covers that and a lot more. Everything from inflammation, anxiety, nausea, appetite suppression. That, believe me, you'll be ready to eat. You'll order a large pizza from Round Table at that point. I'm just telling you. You're not going to be able to avoid these effects. And here's the great thing. Wes has isolated this in this lab, and it's pure its form. It's actually organic. When I say it's organic, it's really organic. I mean, we've got it down to that. We've got it down to that pure raw form. Isn't that somewhere between 95 and almost 100% pure? Isn't it like 98?
Again, when we test it, the test results will come out usually in the above 98, 99%. What always surprises me is when they bring me back a test result at 103%.
Well, okay, so wait, so that's where I start questioning things again. I'm like 103%.
Now you sound like a layperson, Paul. You can add. I'm just telling you, buddy.
Oh my God.
It was one of the things that I wondered is how you have something more than 100% pure. Then we get into, you'd have to understand the rounding. You'd have to understand
The
all
rounding
the different
up
things.
and past?
Yeah, the other side of this is a lot of these tests were designed for other applications, and now they're used in monitoring these applications. This science is going to evolve and continue to move forward over time.
We're using machinery and things that were not originally made for this compound.
Absolutely. As I said, the best part is that the study is being opened up in many of the colleges.
Right.
So we have a large desire for people to learn more about this. Now that they've made it through the hemp bill a decriminalized legal substance, it also caused a whole nother problem because I'm disappointed that they made a certain side of this illegal, and then they made another side of this legal. But the legal side has the loopholes which allow people to put untested, untried combinations together and push them out to the public.
Right.
And this is the part that I just want to make sure that everybody, I'm not going to bash anybody and say we're the best or we do this or that. Just make sure you know, you do a little check and make sure you know where your products are coming from.
Right.
Also realize that the isolate that has been flooded into our market is probably, just because it's called an isolate and it's got the same letter combination, they make this stuff from mold today. There's you can synthesize cannabinoids, and so we do know that it's being done. We know it's been done for a number of years, and so when the pricing dropped from $2,000 down to $200 over a fairly short period of time, and then the market becomes so oversaturated with product, you got to believe that a lot of that product is synthesized.
Oh yeah.
And then we'll get into some terms called whole plant, whole based, all the different terms of how products are made and how they're put together. It is difficult because it's a non-regulated process. They don't have regulations for these cannabinoids, so people are allowed to manipulate and do things that aren't right. They did a study back a number of years ago where the FDA decided to grab all the CBD products, and they found that 50% of them didn't even have any CBD in them at all.
By the way, if you guys are listening and you're listening audio-wise and you want to call in, feel free. Studio line is open, 415-757-0676. Again, 415-757-0676. I'm speaking with Wes Ady. Wes Ady is actually the executive producer of a new show that we're launching here at Edge Studios. It's called Ask OG AI. I have to do that. Ask OG AI. I have to do that every time so I know it. Executive producer. He's got a lot of stuff. We're really excited about the stuff we're doing here at Edge Studios, and they're doing at Ask OG AI. So many contributors, so many people that are educators in our industry. We're just really fortunate to be within the circle, right?
Thank you, Paul, for plugging that. I can tell you that this has been a process to come together after many years, many relationships. And when people will come to that particular platform, they'll be able to ask questions and get answers. And it's interesting. Data is something that's very difficult to quantify today. You'd think we'd have a better handle on it. But if there's X amount of data points that lead to a specific direction, even if that's old news, it can still direct the way things go. So one thing that we're going to try to do is, we'll try to always tell the truth. What an amazing thing that might be.
I think that will shock and awe our listeners and viewers, right? So,
and we're going to come at this humbly because, being an expert in this field, what you're going to find, you'll always be a target because as things change, we don't know it all. We're learning on a daily basis, as Paul says, all the different possibilities of these therapies. What the blessing is with the feedback from the clients, what we get to see is, I don't have to make any claims. My clients make the claims. When they come back and buy a product for a second time,
right.
And they give me, we do feedback loops on our products. We try to make sure that what somebody is working towards that they're getting.
Right.
There's a lot of needs, and their first needs and secondary needs, and as Paul said, even things like nausea, even things like hunger, even things like appetite suppressing. These are natural compounds that can help with a lot of those things. And it really is an individual, we haven't talked about cannabis at this point, but it's why individuals have specific strains of cannabis that they like.
Right.
It affects them in a specific way that benefits them.
Yeah, so much of the
cannabis
I'm smoking nowadays, actually. So as I get older, I've noticed a lot more. We have a lot of professionals producing cannabinoids in the market, and I'm so glad you're upside down now. I love it. He's using his inversion boots, folks. Should I flip you?
Yeah.
I can flip you here. I'll flip you.
All I need's a tub of cold water, and we'll do the whole shemizzle.
Either you flip yourself or I'll flip you. Let me see here. Do you want me to flip you? I can. Hold on.
Yeah, I just spun
Yeah,
me
no,
around,
it's okay.
so
Leave it like that. I'll flip you. I know you guys are enjoying this. This is what happens when we do this. Okay, so.
Well, what's really good is, Paul is a blessing to me. The fact that I have a platform to be able to communicate with people.
If you could just center yourself a little bit for me, if you would be so kind. There you go. Perfect. I got you the right way up. Just center yourself. Go to your
Amen.
Right. There you go.
The fact that we have this technology is, to me, such a blessing. I know right now we're only streaming on 3 services.
Right.
And I've never streamed on 3 services ever. So
there you go.
My thanks is to Paul and the studio. I'd like to give a plug to the studio. If there's anybody in the Bay Area that would like to do podcasts or other video presentations, we're happy to work with people. We'll work with, you don't have to be a big person.
Nope.
Maybe you just want a personal bio to be able to present out on your product. Maybe you want to highlight a product, but realize this, we are a studio that's willing to work with people, not the biggest people in the world sometimes, but we are here to support the individual that is trying to get to social media, figure out how to use these platforms to benefit them. And again, my appreciation is to Paul and the studio here to give me the platform to be able to speak to you all. So thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you. I appreciate your love. And we are a community-based video casting service. Again, we're talking to the executive producer of Ask OGAI, the CannaCast. It's Wes Ady. And so you're right. We are here for everyone. You could be a big corporation. You could be something in San Francisco. I'd be glad to help you with your project, get it off the ground. But we're really looking for the little guy that has a problem getting their content out there. I'm working with a young artist right now that's laying rap tracks. Never really done that, but I'm an audio engineer, so it was just something. It's a skill that I had to work on and get. So we're doing stuff like that. We're doing video presentation. We're doing educational videos. We're doing community-based activist stuff here in San Francisco. I love my city, but we're everywhere. I mean, we have Wes down in LA, and he is part of our family. He's part of the Edge Studios family. That's why he talks about it like when he says us, he's really one of us. He's part of this family. Everybody that walks into the studio is family. We want you to create.
It's treated a lot differently, Paul. You have such a unique service here. You guys have no idea what the capabilities of this particular studio is.
Yeah, I
and
keep telling people to come in and take a free tour, and this goes out to anybody out there. Come in for a free tour and see what this Death Star's full capabilities are, because it is something like out of Star Wars. I've been to all the studios in San Francisco. I want to thank every studio I've been to, even to this one when I built it 10 years ago with the former owner. I appreciate the opportunity that gentleman gave me, even though he's not a positive part of my life anymore. He gave me a platform for me to learn. Same with some of these other studios. I had to go and work and be a host at a whole bunch of really bad studios to figure out what needs to be right in ours. And so I've done that. We've upgraded equipment. The only thing that's really the same here in these studios is the stuff on the wall for the soundproofing, the mics and the tables, and maybe some of the peripherals like a CD player. But I mean, it's all been rewired. It's all got new computers. It's all got all new software that's actually legit and not hacked. We won't go into that. But we're doing the right thing here at Edge Studios. We're really trying to educate in a positive environment and entertain, because I think those two, you have to have that balance between education and entertainment. Otherwise, you lose some of us. So again, I'm speaking with executive producer of Ask OG AI, the CBDcast. It's Wes Ady, and all the way from LA. So thank you for joining us, man. You've been hanging out with us for 1 hour, 31 minutes. I know you're ready to go take a break. So am I. I got Ace the Wonder Pup here.
I want to give a plug to the next group that we're going to put on.
Please do. Go around the table and talk about what we have going on. You can even talk about kind of what we can expect from Ask OG AI, the CBDcast.
The platform of Ask OG AI will cover things from genetics, patenting, extraction, nutrition. It's going to cover seeds, products, services, consulting. It's a very elaborate platform. It's been quite difficult to put together, as again, all these people, you ask, what is an OG?
Well, originally, what was originally back in the day, OG, like OG Magazine was Original Gentleman?
Well, I come from Virginia, so I always liked that as a term. But I've always looked as an OG as some sort of an expert.
Right. Ever since then, when somebody goes, "You're an OG," it means you're well versed in your background, and it usually means you have a little bit of age or knowledge behind you.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a guy that's 2 years into something
right.
when you have somebody else that has 14 years or 34 years.
Right.
You couldn't say the young man is an OG. He's very intelligent and he's got a lot, and he might even know more than the OG. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying any of that, but there's something about waking up day after day and the difference over time. I think that's maybe what makes an OG. And
right.
again, if you had to call yourself an OG, you're not an OG.
Right. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We have viewers on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Africa TV. Thank you for joining us. If you have questions, you can do this in real time. That's right. Just go down into your comments. Tell us what you're thinking. We'd be glad to answer you. We're probably going to get off here in a few minutes because, boy, we've been rocking and rolling, and everybody needs a break once in a while. But I want to thank you guys for joining.
We really do appreciate the audience out there, and
right.
Thank you all. Questions are always good. If I'm just speaking on what I want to talk about, that's great. But reality is we're very interested in what the people want to know about. And by all means, we'll have platforms where you can send in your questions to the platform, because a lot of times we like to do a little bit of research before we bang back against something that's very specific. We're going to give you answers off the cuff. And if over time we find that there's something that's not represented properly, we're probably going to readdress it. Realize that we are humbly coming at this. It's not pre-done. We're doing this stuff live. If we make mistakes, we're sorry. We're not perfect.
Well, and it's definitely viewership driven. That's the AI portion of Ask OG AI, the CBDcast, is that you guys drive what we talk about. If you guys don't have anything to talk about, we'll light the fuse and run away and see if that'll spark the conversation, if you will. But we really want your input, because without your input, we don't know where we're driving this car. We're just driving it down Route 66, but we don't know where our destination is. But you are the one behind the wheel of Ask OG AI, and that's why we're doing this. We're doing it for you, the people. I know that a lot of you, it doesn't matter if you're the layman. Let's go to this side. Doesn't matter if you're the layman or you're the advanced geneticist. You will, everybody will find something of value and entertaining and educational along the road that we're asking. So you guys, please let us know. I'm looking really forward to the show. We have a lot of experts, a lot of contributors, and we're rushing to get, well, not rushing, but we're getting this content together for you. So please let us know what you think. You can reply to us or comment on any of these platforms that we're talking about today, including Facebook. And definitely we've had viewers all the way across the board. I want to thank you. And Facebook, I'm sorry that I had to hack and use my phone. Next time you'll be in just like this. You'll be watching it full scale and not just off a phone. But otherwise, thank you, Wes. It's always a pleasure
I'd like
talking
to thank
to you.
everybody for listening, and thanks again, Paul, and the studio. We're just super excited to have this relationship, and we look forward to the future and working with you.
Now,
Thank you
Wes,
so
how
much,
do we
man.
keep up with everything that you're doing? Everything from your stuff on your website to even just following you socially? Do you have something for us, or do we just stay tuned? Or are we staying
I don't
tuned?
at this very moment, but yes, we'll be putting together. I told Paul earlier today, I'm an older person, and I got whiplashed by this thing called MySpace many years ago.
That's what all the kids are
I'll just
talking
tell it
about.
like-
That's the buzz.
I'll just tell it like it is. They started selling kiddie porn to all of my real estate clients. So I can tell you that it was a little bit difficult in wanting to stay on social media when I got whipsawed by a program, and I don't even know how many years ago, because it was before all the programs that you're talking about.
Right.
They didn't even exist.
Right.
So, I've been a little leery, Paul, but we're going to make something that will be able to tell people what we're doing, when we're doing it, our time frame, and really what we're hoping is that this is going to be audience driven. We're really looking for feedback from the public. So
Yeah,
again,
so you guys
Paul,
got to get off your laurels. You got to tell us what you're thinking, because we need to know. It was really great that we had some feedback, but we're really looking for other stuff. And when we do the replay of this, we'll be playing it in entirety. It's an hour and 40 minutes. You can listen to it as you drive, whatever you're doing. You can use this to tone out at the end of the night. This is good. This is good stuff. You need to know this stuff, especially if you are a user of cannabis and CBD products. It's a thing you need to be educated about what you're putting into your body. We're professionals. We ask you to do not attempt this at home without at least educating yourself. And we are not, again, here's our disclaimer. We're not doctors. We're not telling you to drop everything. But we're telling you to think about stuff and just don't be another lemming following the next one off the cliff, folks. That's all we're asking. We're asking you to be an advocate for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones, for your friends. Again, my name is Paul Brumbaugh. We got Wes Ady, again, executive producer of Ask OGAI, the CannaCast, coming soon here to Ed Studios Online. Thank you again, Wes. We'll talk to you really soon. You're going to hang in there because I'm just going to hit stop and we're going to finish the conversation. But thank you guys for joining in. We want your questions below. We want to know what you think, because that's actually what we're going to talk about next time. All right, guys, keep standing up all the way from Edge Studios in San Francisco. I'm out, folks. We'll see you next time.